So hello again, everyone. I know it was just 2 seconds before I just said it, but hello again. I'd like to officially welcome you to today's webinar, Managing VISTA's Fundamental Supervisory Skills. I'm Jessica Birch from the Corporation for National and Community Service, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. I'll also be facilitating the live Q&A at the end of the session. Also joining us are Rachel Raddick and Jenny Farrell from our partners at Education Northwest, who have helped to prepare today's webinar and will be managing the WebEx technology. You'll also see them in the chat and Q&A to help address questions that you may have during the session. And now it's a great pleasure for me to welcome our main speakers today. First, we have Signa Bishop. Signa has been working in the training and development field in higher education, nonprofit, and national service settings for the past 10 years. She holds a master's degree in education and a certificate in intercultural training and development through Portland State University. Before joining Oregon Health and Science University in 2013 to work on leadership development, Signa worked for several nonprofits, recruiting volunteers, engaging students in service, and running college access programs, as well as managing an AmeriCorps VISTA program. Signa also got her professional start as an AmeriCorps VISTA, so she is a forever member of our AmeriCorps VISTA family. Jackie Rader is a project manager for the Utah Refugee VISTA project and has been for almost 3 years, and she oversees 12 AmeriCorps VISTA members and a VISTA leader at 5 different organizations. This project is housed within the Refugee Services Office at the Utah Department of Workforce Services, and all of her VISTA members work on refugee-focused programming. So welcome, Signa and Jackie. Throughout today's presentation, we will be sharing specific strategies and suggested activities to support your work as a VISTA supervisor. These strategies and activities have been compiled into a one-page document called Managing VISTAs, VISTA Campus, and Other Resources, which was included as a link in the webinar reminder that you received. So don't worry, we will post this document directly to the VISTA Campus along with the webinar recording. So if you didn't get it in the reminder link, it will be with the recording. Another helpful hint is that whenever you see the tool icon in the upper right corner of the slide, like the one on this screen, this is a quick reminder to refer to this list of resources for more information about a particular strategy or activity. So it is now my pleasure to turn it over to Signa to get us started. Signa, take it away.
Thanks, Jessica. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Like Jessica said, I used to manage AmeriCorps programs, and I was a VISTA supervisor myself, so I know how challenging and rewarding this role can be. In fact, I've directly supervised 4 VISTAs during my career, and each time it was a different experience because each VISTA brought their unique skills and experience to their roles. For example, several of the VISTAs that I supervised were new professionals, and one was significantly more seasoned. Likewise, I needed to flex my communication style with each in order to help them thrive. They also all came from very different backgrounds, which meant that I needed to do a lot of listening, ask a lot of questions, as well as test my own assumptions about how to work with people from diverse backgrounds. It was always hard work, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I also learned a lot about being a good leader and a great supervisor. On the subject of honing supervision skills, here's what we hope you'll get out of today's webinar. By the end of our time together, we're hoping that you'll be able to understand and leverage the unique opportunities inherent in supervising a VISTA member. Through supervising, mentoring, and coaching, you have a special opportunity to influence your VISTA members' professional life and help them accomplish great things for your organization. We also want you to be able to apply fundamental supervisory skills to working with VISTA members. This includes setting professional expectations regarding policies, procedures, and office operations, as well as listening and giving and receiving feedback. Next, we hope that you'll be better able to use your VISTA'S VAD, or VISTA Assignment Description, as a supervisory tool. In order to make the most of the time you have together, we want you to be able to use the VAD to create a shared understanding of projects, timelines, and direction. Finally, we'll assist you in identifying VISTA and CNCS resources to support your role as a supervisor. But before we jump into our content for today's webinar, I want to pause for just a moment to learn a bit about you and your experience supervising VISTA members. So please take a minute to answer our poll question. How comfortable do you feel supervising VISTA members? Do you feel A, very comfortable, B, somewhat comfortable, C, not comfortable at all, or D, I don't know, it's my first time as a VISTA supervisor?
Thank you, Signa. Signa mentioned just take a few seconds to go ahead and do that poll question. There's no right answer here. Just be honest. This is, we want to just kind of see where you're at. And no matter where you are, no matter if you're very comfortable or this is your first time as a supervisor, we want to, there's something here for everyone. So there's no right or wrong answer. So go ahead and put that in the chat. I'm sorry, not in the chat, complete the poll. Testing myself here. So we'll let it go here for a few more seconds. Want to make sure everybody has some time to do that. And then we'll go ahead and read out the results. All right, it looks like the poll has ended and they're just tabulating the results. Always when I'm waiting for the results is when it takes a little bit. So the survey says about this is that how comfortable do those in attendance feel supervising their VISTA members? The majority of people, it's a pretty even spread. We have the somewhat comfortable is where most people are at. Also a significant a number of people are very comfortable. And for a number of you as well, this is your first time as a supervisor or as a VISTA supervisor. So that's great. All walks of life, all different points in their VISTA supervising career. So Signa, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Cool, thanks Jessica. And thanks to everyone for answering the poll. Levels of comfort in responding to member challenges clearly varies, and I'm looking forward to providing some tools and guidance to support you in responding to member needs. So let's start off with working with understanding the unique opportunity inherent in supervising a VISTA member and how this opportunity benefits your community and your organization. So VISTAs are unique in a number of very important ways. VISTAs have committed to a year of service. This means that they're in it to give back because they're passionate about your mission and because they're excited about gaining new or different professional experiences. This is not a job for VISTAs, rather it's an opportunity to change their life and the lives of other Americans through national service. You may supervise both VISTA members and permanent staff, and VISTAs are different from employees in what they can do and what they need from you as a supervisor. The following characteristics make a national service member different from an employee. VISTAs are on a fixed-term contract. They may be new to the workplace or transitioning from one job or career to another. VISTAs receive a stipend and not a salary. VISTAs might need coaching and task-level training in the first month. And they may need extra help understanding their specific assignment. Another way that VISTAs are different from employees is that they are very likely using their national service experience to gain experience in a professional role or a new field. And so they'll need extra guidance from you to get up to speed. To illustrate this point, let me tell you about when I started out as a VISTA. It was the year 2005, and I had recently graduated from college with a liberal arts degree and wasn't having a lot of luck in my job search. Happily, a friend told me about AmeriCorps, and as a VISTA, I got the opportunity to do high-level project work in a field I was super excited about. But, at least at the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had never had a full-time job before, and working 40 hours a week felt like forever. I also had almost zero experience in my project assignment, which was incredibly nerve-wracking. And I hadn't ever worked in a professional environment before, so I really didn't know how to dress or act or any of the basics of being in a professional workplace. Luckily, I had an awesome supervisor who was willing to spend extra time coaching me and answering the constant stream of daily questions I had. He also set up weekly one-on-ones with me during which he referred to my VAD often to check on my progress. Initially, I needed a lot from him, but his investment in me paid off and we had a very successful first year of that VISTA project. So much so that my site even invited me to stay for a second year. On that note, I want to make one more point about how VISTAs are unique and special. VISTAs build capacity. This means that they're entering your organization to serve on a project that your organization hasn't had the resources to undertake until now. They are human capital and your most precious resource. As such, a VISTA's work should always focus on capacity building, so when their service year is over, your project and organization will be stronger. Examples of capacity building activities may include things like creating a volunteer database or establishing a policies and procedures manual for volunteers. In my first VISTA assignment, I helped create and lead 2 programs that didn't exist before I started. And I expanded several programs that the organization didn't have the time or people to make sustainable without a VISTA's work. So, if a VISTA is a precious resource that builds the capacity of your organization to reach its mission, you will need to make sure that they have their workplace needs met so they can be highly successful. So what does this mean exactly? Well, we've outlined 3 specific strategies for developing and maintaining a successful VISTA member-supervisor relationship that we think will help you better support your VISTA. These 3 strategies are making both spoken and unspoken rules explicit, using the VISTA Assignment Description to clarify and provide structure for the VISTA's role, and offering continuous and clear feedback. So let's discuss each of these in more detail so you have a good sense of what each strategy entails. For strategy number 1, spoken versus unspoken rules, think of your VISTA as a blank slate in terms of your office culture and norms. It's your responsibility to fill them in on how your organization functions, both in ways that are clear and out in the open, as well as on the norms and rules that everyone just knows because, well, that's the way it's always been, or that's just how we do things here. In order to ensure that your VISTA is well-oriented to your organization's workplace environment, community culture, and both spoken and unspoken rules, you'll need to provide clear expectations and reiterate them often. To assist with this, you received an on-site orientation and training checklist, or OSOT checklist, during your supervisor orientation with a list of items to help you plan how to orient your VISTA. This list includes most of the common items for welcoming your VISTA to a new community, things like introductions, rules about absenteeism, timesheets, etc. The OSOT checklist is a great place to start to ensure that you are verbally discussing key policies and procedures. These are likely written down in your organization's employee handbook, but often these rules become so well known that they may fall into the unspoken rules category, even though they're written down and technically accessible to all staff members. In addition to the importance of verbally discussing key policies and procedures, there are often elements of the workplace environment and community culture that are not written down in an employee handbook and so also go unspoken. These are important rules to review with your VISTA member and could be included in your OSOT planning worksheet. To illustrate the point about unspoken rules, I want to share a story about an unspoken rule I encountered when I was serving as a VISTA. I served at a small college, and I began my term in August before school was in session. When I started, most people in the office wore jeans frequently and definitely dressed on the casual side of business casual. A few weeks into my term, I was talking with my supervisor about getting my picture on the organization's website, and I commented that I noticed he was wearing a tie in his picture, which I had actually never seen him do before. This prompted a conversation about how to dress when interacting with stakeholders, which in our case meant students in addition to other groups. Professional dress expectations meant no jeans, neckties and stockings, and closed-toed shoes. Thank goodness this conversation happened before school started so that I was prepared to meet expectations once class was in session. So now that I've shared an example of what an unspoken rule meant during my VISTA term, I'd like to hear from you about what unspoken rules exist at your organization. Please enter your ideas in the chat box and make sure you send to all participants. If you're on a mobile device, you'll find the chat feature at the bottom of the participant panel.
Thank you, Signa. So, what are some of the unspoken rules at your organization? I know, kind of the same thing as you, Signa, here at our office at CNCS. You typically wear business, you wear black slacks, or you wear skirts, and then we have, casual Fridays, jeans on Fridays. Other places, jeans all day, which is definitely a hard thing to transfer from when you're used to jeans all day to then going to business casual or businessy. So what are some of you guys saying? So Grace here said chain of command, and Jennifer also echoed that as well. Dress code and chain of command. That's really important. You know, who should your VISTA go to on certain issues? You know, always come to me first. Definitely don't want them talking to, you know, like in your case, maybe Cigna the dean before actually talking to your supervisor. So Simon here said that my VISTAs will be working in schools, so the same expectations as apply to faculty, which is a really good way. If there's some, you know, VISTAs aren't like your typical employee, so if there's, you know, do what the faculty does, you know, follow those same guidelines is really helpful. Let's see here. Akeisha here said maintaining a quiet work environment conducive to productivity. That's really good, especially if you have like an open office. Quiet is best for everybody. Chris said use a county car for business instead of your own vehicle when they are available. All right, that's great. That's a great, rule, unspoken rule. Georgia here has said avoid office politics. That's a very loaded term, and that can mean so much, but it says so much in the same time, so that's great. Carly said flexing time, extra hours worked. Josh here said when it's appropriate to email all staff and when not. Man, that reply all button can be tricky, so definitely making sure they know the difference. And Angela here says keep the supervisor updated on schedules. You definitely, you know, make sure your VISTA knows to check in with you. Make sure that you know how you want them to check in with you, because you don't want to think someone went MIA when they just didn't know to contact you. Man, there's so much here. Meeting community partners, dress business casual. Let's see, use of cell phones for personal reasons, so frequent texting or use of social media during work hours. That's something definitely to make sure that they're aware of what's okay and what's not. A lot of these email versus texting, so should I text you if I'm going to be late, or do you want me to email you? What's the perfect way to do that? Yeah, and same thing, CC on emails, chain of command on emails, and then also this is a great one too. Anne said that share private phone numbers in case of an emergency, so that's always great to do. Just make sure that's part of your checklist when you get there, when your VISTA gets there, I should say. You know, let's get your emergency contact in there. Hopefully nothing will happen, but then we have it and that's all squared away. So Cigna, this group is great. They got a lot of great stuff, and keep it coming. But I'm going to turn it back over to Cigna now.
Cool, thank you. And thanks for those responses. The list you all generated in the chat is a great list of unspoken rules, and hopefully this brainstorm was helpful in getting you all thinking about what you should be sure to make your VISTA aware of in terms of unspoken rules, norms, and behavioral expectations. One thing that I'll also mention is that the list that was generated in the chat mentions a lot of things that come up in the Managing Up VISTA webinar that's available right now on the VISTA campus. Rachel's going to post the link to that, and I would recommend that supervisors and VISTAs both watch that, because we definitely create some strategies and offer some strategies around helping with some of these things that you all mentioned. All right, so let's move on. The second supervisory strategy that I want to spend time discussing is using the VISTA Assignment Description to clarify and provide structure for the VISTA's role. The VISTA Assignment Description can be an awesome project management tool, so let's talk a bit more about how to maximize the utility of your VISTA's VAD. First, we wanted to help demystify the VAD a bit. While we certainly understand that the VAD may feel complicated, it's really just a project plan that provides a detailed step-by-step blueprint that will help set up a VISTA member for success. The VAD should describe the project, the goals of the project, and the very specific tasks to accomplish the goals of the project. Having a clear project plan is one of the most significant tools in a supervisor's toolkit. VADs help focus expectations for each VISTA and define what is realistic for one person to accomplish in a year. A clear VAD can also help clarify the VISTA member's role to staff. A VISTA's task should be focused on capacity building so that when the VISTA member's service is over, your project and organization will be stronger. Having a clear VAD helps focus and protect your VISTA member's time. The VAD is also a great tool for engaging your VISTA. Refer to the VAD often during your one-on-one meetings with your VISTA member, just like you would a position description or any other project plan. Revisiting the VAD is also a great way to help keep your VISTA accountable, monitor progress on tasks and goals, and maintain motivation by celebrating milestones achieved. VAD discussions can help you discover what barriers the VISTA is facing, what they're worried about, as well as what's going great and what they're excited about. Use the VAD as a conversation tool to engage the VISTA and listen to what they have to say about how their project is going. It's very likely that they will have unique insights on what's working well and what should change for the next VISTA member. We often hear from VISTA members that their #1 roadblock during their service year is not understanding their VAD. In my 4 years of experience as a VISTA project director, I can absolutely say that the VISTAs who had strong VADs and whose supervisors took the time to orient them to the VAD and follow up on project tasks had more rewarding service experiences and more successful projects. In my experience, if the VAD is really clear, challenges around expectations, communication, motivation, and retention can be mitigated. To help illustrate the importance of the VAD as a supervisory tool, we wanted to show you an example of a strong VAD. Just like any project plan, the key elements of a strong VAD include having specific objectives, tasks related to each objective, and completion dates for both objectives and individual tasks. With all of these components in place, the VAD becomes a roadmap for your VISTA with specific steps and a complete timeline for reaching their destination. Let's take a closer look at the objectives, activities, and completion dates included in this sample VAD. While the overall goal of your VISTA's VAD can't change, individual objectives and tasks can be modified anytime to align with the skills and professional growth needs of your VISTA. As we discussed, VISTA members benefit from more support and professional growth than experienced employees, and the VAD allows you to monitor the progress of a VISTA project by creating a guide toward project success. The clearer and more specific your objectives and activities are written, the more helpful the VAD becomes in developing a successful supervisory relationship with your VISTA. When writing project objectives, make sure that each objective aligns with the overall goal of the VISTA project and always include specific completion dates. Your objectives only need to be a sentence or two and should essentially state the outcome of a set of activities. For example, in this sample VAD, the first objective relates to assessing and refining the organization's volunteer mentor recruitment program. The ultimate goal being to build the capacity of the organization to improve mentor recruitment and matching. After creating clear objectives, the supervisor should think about the specific member activities a VISTA could do to meet each objective. Are there tools they need to create? Should they conduct a needs assessment? Is there specific reading or research they must first accomplish? In this case, the supervisor has listed 2 key member activities on conducting research about the organization's history with volunteer recruitment: reading internal documents and possibly conducting internal interviews to get a better sense of the gaps. And then to create an internal process, which is essentially a set of steps for screening and matching new mentors. The overall idea here is to be clear, be succinct, and provide timelines. Now that you've had a little primer, I want to hear what you really think about the VAD. Don't be shy. We know the VAD can be challenging, and we're about to address some common yeah buts that we often hear from VISTA supervisors. So let's open up the chat for your thoughts. Please enter your ideas in the chat box and make sure you send to all participants. 1 word or a short sentence is fine here.
Thank you, Signa. So we're already getting a bunch here. So Julianne said vague, Josh said broad, Perdita said guide, Yolanda said limiting, Sharon said difficult. We also had Emily, she was super on it, she's our first one. She said, our VAD is super general because we have 30 sites in 20 states which all kind of do something different. So we have a tool called a service planning workbook that the supervisor and VISTA fill out 4 times per year, which basically take the VAD outline and blows it out to location-specific tasks and activities. Lorna here said wordy. Grace said very conceptual, supporting long-term goals, but needs more focus in the short term. We also have evolving, some limited, vague. That's a reoccurring theme. Sherry here said that the VAD is good to establish parameters for the VISTA, and that's very true. It really kind of allows them to know what is okay for a VISTA to do and what's not, you know, that indirect versus direct service. We also have difficult to connect VAD to real-life activities. Nina here said that it's overwhelming to put together, but has great potential. Definitely, you know, getting those VADs and getting them to a point where they have the right activities. They're not too vague, they're not too broad, they're not too detailed. That is an art. So I definitely understand that there. And that's pretty much here what Resford said. Developing a VAD that is both broad and precise enough to create a roadmap for the year of service is difficult when things can change dramatically across the year. And that's very true. Someone here said that the VAD is evolving, and the VAD, we say it a lot, the VAD is a living document. And as Signa said, while you can't change the goals of the project, like the main objective there, you can change parts of the VAD. So most people are saying the same things. Catherine here said that the VAD is a helpful tool to keep the project on track, and that it can be amended to better reflect the reality of the challenges that come up, and that's very true. Phil said that it's great, but there are a number of things that are not on the VAD that come up in the air that I need VISTAs to do. So these are great. There's a lot of good things. There's a lot of things that are not the best, but I think that's what we were expecting, right, Signa?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
And thanks, everyone, for those chat comments. We thought you might have some strong opinions about the VAD, so let's dive in a bit deeper and so we can talk a little bit more about how to make it work for you. The key to using the VAD as a supervisory tool is that it should be clear, specific, and that it should help you guide your VISTA towards success. So let's talk about some of the yeah buts that we hear often. Yeah, but I didn't write this VAD and it's incomprehensible. Yeah, but my VISTA doesn't want to stick to the VAD. Yeah, but other staff keep pulling the VISTA into their projects. So let's talk through these one at a time. So you didn't write your VISTA's VAD and it's incomprehensible. This happens and it's not the end of the world. First, I suggest calling your VISTA project director or CNCS state office contact to have them walk you through the VAD and discuss the goals with you. The reality is that someone at CNCS approved this VAD and should be able to help you better understand what your VISTA should be doing. And, like I mentioned before, the VAD is a living document, so there's room for changes and updates to make it better. If, on the other hand, the VAD outlines a project that isn't realistic, isn't relevant, or just doesn't exist, be honest and upfront with this about this with your CNCS contact. They will help you figure out what to do. At the end of the day, we all want what's best for the VISTA and for your organization, and having the VISTA work on an irrelevant project isn't doing anyone any good. Okay, so what happens if your VISTA doesn't want to stick to the VAD? We hear this one a lot. Using solid, basic management techniques may help with this issue. Make sure you're communicating with your VISTA about why their project is important and the impact that it's going to have on the community and the people you serve. Meet with them often to help them make connections between what they're doing and outcomes. And give them consistent feedback on what they're doing and how it's going. You can also lean on the project's VISTA leader, project director, or CNCS contact to help with this. Sometimes VISTAs may not understand how important it is for them to stick to the VAD in order for the project to build capacity and become sustainable. And your VISTA program contacts may be able to help reinforce these concepts. As a VISTA supervisor, though, you should be the head cheerleader for the VAD. If you're not serious about sticking to the VAD, it's likely that your VISTA won't be either. Finally, if other staff keep pulling the VISTA into their projects or asking the VISTA to do things that are inappropriate, like picking up lunch or making photocopies, it's really important for you to step in. Just like VISTAs sometimes misunderstand their own role, other staff may not get what VISTA is or why they're serving with your organization. It's your job as a VISTA supervisor to help other staff understand that the VISTA is there to do a specific project and that they're a precious resource for your organization. Make this clear early and reiterate it often. I would also encourage you to empower your VISTAs to set clear boundaries with other staff as well. However, you will need to spearhead and role model this for them, and it's ultimately your job to protect their time and energy from interlopers. Now let's get into strategy number 3, which is all about the value of feedback. While your VISTA is super excited about this opportunity, they may have no idea what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, yet. By hosting a VISTA, you may be providing a new professional with a work experience that's at a higher level than anything they've ever done before. This means you have to train them and give them feedback in order for them to produce the stellar results that you expect from them. Hosting a VISTA is intended to be a reciprocal relationship. Your organization gets a person to do an amazing project, and the VISTA gets an awesome mentor, that's you, to help them grow and develop professionally. For this work, continuous feedback is essential. So how do we go about this? First and foremost, be available. Part of being able to provide expectations, feedback, and coaching means that you're available regularly to learn what the VISTA is actually doing. You can communicate perfectly the first time, but if they never see you again, or if they don't have a chance to ask you questions, the message you're sending is that you don't have time to revisit and reiterate your expectations. This can do a lot of damage to the VISTA's ability to succeed. Supervising VISTAs, and anyone really, is all about letting them know that what they do matters to you. Being available also means making time for regular one-on-ones. One-on-one meetings allow you to get familiar with the VISTA's work through observation, questioning, and debriefing. Also be sure to ask them what barriers they're facing so that you can help them figure out how to move forward. If you work off-site, ensure these one-on-one meetings happen via phone, WebEx, or Skype. It's great to use a technology where you and your VISTA can see each other. So let's spend some time talking more specifically about how to plan and conduct one-on-one meetings, because I think it's one of the most important tools in your supervisor toolkit for providing continuous coaching and feedback. One way to ensure that you are providing this feedback is to establish a structure for your regular one-on-ones. Here's an example of how to structure your meetings via the 10-10-10 approach, which means that a 30-minute one-on-one meeting is broken out into 3 10-minute sections. The first 10-minute block is for the VISTA, and they're responsible for leading this part of the meeting. This means that they bring their agenda items and they go first. This ensures that they get the time they need for their questions and have the space to inform you about successes, as well as any barriers they're facing. The second 10-minute block is for your agenda items as supervisor. Going second sometimes makes supervisors nervous. However, because the VISTA went first, it's very likely that they've already checked off some of your agenda items because they've already addressed them. So you should also get what you need from the meeting during your 10-minute block. The final 10 minutes are reserved for the VISTA's career development, personal and professional goal setting, and any other growth opportunities. This time is set aside as an intentional part of the approach so that there's always time for these conversations. This may be where you talk about mentorship or training around a specific skill area related to a project task, or maybe you take a look at the VISTA'S VAD together or get them connected to internal resources like influential colleagues or on-site trainings that will support their professional development. The idea is that these conversations become a regular part of your VISTA supervisor interactions, and it's an ongoing discussion throughout the service year. This is also a great opportunity to continue to develop and strengthen your relationship with your VISTA. Remember to check out Managing VISTAs, VISTA Campus, and other resources to locate a sample agenda for using the 10-10-10 model with your VISTA member. This sample agenda has been created to align with the VAD and provide specific questions to support your VISTA member during your one-on-one meetings. In addition to the 10-10-10 model, the Manager Tools website, which is where the 10-10-10 model comes from, has several awesome podcasts that are really helpful if you're looking for more information on how to conduct and get the most out of one-on-one meetings. To add to this discussion, we're lucky to have Jackie Rader on the line to share a bit about her own experience as a VISTA supervisor. Jackie, take it away.
Thank you, Signa. As previously mentioned, I've been a VISTA supervisor for almost 3 years on a multi-site project with 13 VISTA members. Our project has a number of sub-sites, so I'm managing a number of personalities and different work cultures, which can be challenging. When I first became a supervisor for VISTA, I was completely overwhelmed and had no idea what I was in for. In fact, the day that I took over our project, we had 4 new VISTA members start, and I had only worked for the sponsoring organization for 3 days. I had no idea how to get computer access set up, much less how to get access to the building. If you feel like this as well, don't worry, you're in good company. As a project manager, I didn't directly supervise most of our VISTA members. However, I was in constant contact with them, and we learned many things together. Fortunately, the previous VISTA project manager still worked in our office when I joined, and was able to help me navigate not only the first week, but was also a great resource as I continued to learn more about the program. If you are a new VISTA supervisor, I would recommend to see if you can find a colleague in your organization or even within your community with experience supervising a VISTA. They could be a great support to you. I hope my own high learning curve made me more approachable to VISTA members. After all, we all had a lot to learn together. Needless to say, I set off to learn very quickly what I needed to know about the VISTA program, how it runs in our office, and who the key players are at other sites. I also got to know our state CNCS program officer very well and would call or email constantly with questions. Your CNCS program officer is a great resource for when you come up against challenges supporting your VISTA. Reach out to them. One key lesson I learned was the importance of asking questions and encouraging VISTA members to do the same, both of me and their direct supervisor. I've found that by asking questions up front, you avoid making mistakes that could be seriously detrimental. Plus, I'm always happy to educate others as well as to learn something new myself. To this end, it's important for VISTA members to know that if they have an issue, they can come to you without any judgment. Often, VISTA members have outside issues that influence their work or stress level that can contribute to issues at work. Issues could be with someone inside your organization, a staff member or another VISTA, or with someone outside your organization, such as a client, family member, or partner. In either case, issues with others may impact their ability to function at the top of their game. For example, we had a VISTA who transferred organizations within our project due to a conflict with their previous supervisor. Our work circle is relatively small, and the VISTA member in their new role would be likely to run into their old supervisor on occasion. However, asking the VISTA member in this case to work directly with their old supervisor or organization on behalf of their new role would not be in the best interest of the VISTA member and very likely not in the best interest of your organization or project. By understanding and having conversations about the VISTA member's history or current feelings toward the other organization, you as the supervisor can help mediate the interaction and find alternative ways to support the project. By actively ensuring an open door policy and judgment-free zone, you open yourself to conversations rather than crises. Another key way to maintain open lines of communication are weekly one-on-one meetings. As Signa shared earlier, regular one-on-one meetings are a must, even if you work daily with your VISTA member. This is an opportunity for you as the supervisor to practice active listening and truly understand what is going on in the life of your VISTA member. When you actively listen, you tend to hear more than you think, a sort of reading between the lines that can help steer conversation or approach in a more effective direction. Ultimately, your VISTA member is human, as are you, and they are looking for the same honest support that you may request from your own supervisor. By maintaining open lines of communication, you open yourself to other ideas and perspectives that you may not have considered before. Thank you for your time today. Back to you, Signa.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. So to recap, here are some of the key points we covered in this webinar that we hope you'll take back to your organization. Your VISTA is a very special resource, and they need you to support and coach them in order to flourish in your organization. So help them get up to speed quickly by building and implementing a strong orientation plan. Meet with them one-on-one and discuss their project regularly. Revisit their VAD and ask them for feedback on how it's going. Be open and honest with your feedback as well. You are one of their best sources for better understanding their strengths and development opportunities, which is probably one of the reasons they joined VISTA in the first place. Using all these strategies will help you build a strong working relationship with your VISTA and will ensure better outcomes for you, the project, your organization, and the VISTA as well. Also, use your VISTA and CNCS program connections to support you in your role as a supervisor. On that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Jessica to discuss these resources in more detail. It was a pleasure talking with you all today, and thank you for your time. Back to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Signa, and thank you, Jackie. I can't follow that very easily, but I'm going to try my best. So as Signa mentioned, there are a few other lines of support for you as a VISTA supervisor. So the first we want to discuss is VISTA leader. Not all projects have VISTA leaders. Projects generally have to have around 6 or 7 or more VISTA members in order to get a VISTA leader. But if you do have a VISTA leader, or if you don't know what VISTA leaders are assigned regionally or to larger projects to assist sponsoring organizations and VISTAs in achieving their project objectives. They are former VISTAs, AmeriCorps members, or Peace Corps volunteers who demonstrated exemplary skills and leadership in community service. They are not permitted to perform administrative or supervisory functions for their sponsoring organizations, and leaders do not supervise VISTAs. So the leader's role really is to coordinate and assist VISTAs in communication and performing their service. The leader, it's important to know that they're not an intermediary between the supervisor and the VISTA program. And they're not responsible for the oversight and guidance of VISTAs. That role really rests with you and with the corporation state office. With a mutual understanding of those parameters of the leader's role, the leader can effectively complement your role as a supervisor. The VISTA Assignment Description is a guide to the leader's service goals, but determining how the leader's assignment dovetails with your work as a supervisor and how and when to best communicate requires discipline and focus between the two of you early on and then throughout the year. You can find more information about the difference between a VISTA leader and a VISTA supervisor and those roles on the VISTA campus, and Jenny and Rachel are going to post that link in the chat so you have that. Another great resource that you have that Signa's mentioned, that Jackie's mentioned, is your state office. So each state has a designated state office to help develop and manage and monitor VISTA programs in their state. They are also there to support supervision of your VISTAs and to intervene in any emergencies or difficult situations. And they're also responsible for connecting you to the resources that most appropriately meet your needs. So one thing I want to encourage you to do, not all states have it, but a lot do, they have a page on the VISTA campus for communicating with you, the VISTA sponsor. I know Texas has a great one, so if you're a Texas supervisor, Texas has a great My State Office page, and you can locate your state office. If you're not quite sure who your VISTA state office is, definitely talk to your project director. You can also contact them by searching on the nationalservice.gov website for your state and then their phone number and email. So those are just a few of the other lines of support. In addition to that, you can listen to a variety of on-demand webinars for supervisors that have been saved on the VISTA campus. I know there's a lot of stuff in the registration data. You know, when you registered, you indicated what you hope to learn, what challenges you're having. Even in the chat here, you had some questions about, you know, how to manage your VISTAs, what challenges you're having. I know there was one person who commented about someone at your site who's a VISTA may suffer from mental illness. So we have a variety of topics related to VISTAs. And so if you're interested in learning more about a specific topic, such as retention or recruitment or project management, you can visit vistacampus.gov and go to the VISTA Supervisors page. These are just a few that we've done. We have about VADs, as we said. We also have VISTA member retention, responding to member challenges. So we have that talks about those daily challenges. We also have one, as I mentioned, about mental health issues that may arise with your VISTA members. So now we want to hear from you. Signa said it, Jackie said it, I'm saying it. We gave you a lot of information in this webinar. So we want to know, what's one thing that you're going to do based on what you learned in this webinar? Maybe it's you're going to try that 10-10-10 model. Maybe it's that you're going to schedule more frequent one-on-one meetings. So just let us know. Like I said, there's not one right answer. Robin here said the 10-10-10 model. That's a super popular one. Julianne said more consistent supervisory review. Man, Signa, your 10-10-10 model is popular. I like it. Carly here said that she's going to break the VAD down into more specific steps. That's great. And a lot of looking closer at the VAD. Nina here says that she's going to have a strong orientation plan. That's great, orienting your VISTAs to your site, making sure they know about those spoken and unspoken rules. I love Angela's listen more. I love it. You can never do enough listening. Jill said that I'm determined to find a contact and get the correct materials for my program and working more with the VAD. That's great. Let's see, we have continue to communicate unspoken rules into spoken rules. Great. Meet regularly with VISTAs, make the VAD clearer. We'll communicate more effectively with our VISTA. Also mentor more and work closely with the VAD. Signa mentioned it. Jackie, lightly touched on it. You guys are mentors. They look up to you. We really can't emphasize the importance that you are to the success of the VISTA program. So from the bottom of my heart, I do want to say thank you, and we appreciate all this wonderful things, this time that you're taking out of your day to join us here, and the wonderful things that you're going to do for your VISTAs. So as we move to the next part, I want to take a quick second to ask you to fill out our evaluation. We want to know what you thought. On the right side of your screen, you'll find a quick poll where you can share feedback about this webinar. Please take a moment. We look at this. I'm antsy when this stuff gets out. I want to know what you thought, what you want more of. Let us know. Did you get the information you need? What other information are you looking for? Did you love us? I don't want to say did you hate us, because I know you didn't hate us. You loved us. So just take a quick second to do the evaluation, and then we're going to move on now to the Q&A. That evaluation will be opened, but we are going to do the question and answer session because we have given you a lot to think about. So as we mentioned, you can ask a question in the Q&A panel located at the right of your screen. I'm now going to ask our operator to let us quickly know how you could answer a question via the phone. Operator, are you there?
Yes, thank you. We'll now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1. You'll be prompted to record your name. Please be sure to unmute your phone. Once again, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1, and we'll pause for just a moment to allow those questions to start coming through.
Thank you so much. So as we wait for any questions that come in over the phone, I'm going to take some that came in throughout the webinar. I had a few that came in. So Sharon asked, she asked, if you realize a VISTA doesn't fit into your program, what can you do? So I'm going to turn that over to Signa. I want to hear Signa, and I also want to hear from Jackie what your thoughts are about that. Definitely I'm going to, if something's not working out, there's definitely a few steps you can take, and you can always get some feedback from your state office. But as Signa and as Jackie have both been VISTA supervisors, I want to hear from them. So Signa, you want to start us off?
Sure, thanks, Jessica. I think my first question would be, in what way are they not working out? And I would encourage this person, the supervisor, to sort of check their assumptions a bit. Maybe it's just that they have different communication styles or, misunderstanding some of the program goals. So, as much as you can ask as many questions as possible and have, one-on-one meetings and conversations about the VAD as much as possible. And even just getting to know that person a little bit sometimes can really help with just differences in in style or maybe fit. The other side of that is, I think, you know, and Jessica, I'm sure you can speak to this, is definitely use your CNCS and your VISTA project resources. They can be really supportive in being able to help you kind of figure out how to work with that person. And at the end of the day, they're only there for 365 days, which I know if you've got someone who is a mismatch feels like a long time. But it is a fixed-term contract, and so how can you help them be the most productive, even if it's not the best fit? And to be perfectly honest, in my experience as a VISTA supervisor, the folks who really challenged me and who were maybe I didn't feel like were the best fit up front absolutely made me a better supervisor and leader, because I had to really flex and work at it, and it wasn't easy, and it was really terrible sometimes, but it was also ended up helping me be better next time and helping me grow as a professional too, which I think has been a great opportunity. Jackie, any thoughts on that one?
I've definitely had several instances of working with some folks that may not have been the best fit for their specific location or project task, and I look at both sides of the story. I talk to the supervisor, I talk to the VISTA member. I'm looking at, you know, who doesn't think that the fit is right there? Did the VISTA member actually get what they thought they signed up for? Different types of questions that you can ask, and trying to look at the whole picture. And as needed, I definitely talk to our CNCS state program officer to see what the options were. Sometimes that option is moving that VISTA member to another project that is a better fit for them and for the organization that they were previously at. So there's a lot of questions that you need to ask first from my perspective, and then move from there.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Signa. One thing I do just want to mention, not that anybody said it here, I just want to mention it. Just as a reminder, you as a VISTA supervisor cannot terminate a VISTA. That lies with the corporation state office. So make sure to have these conversations, ask those questions as Signa and Jackie mentioned. Really get to the root of what's not really working out, but just make sure that you understand like who can terminate if it gets to that level, but hopefully it will not. Another question that came in was, what if the VISTA feels that he should not have to work 35 to 40 hours per week around the nonprofit schedule that requires a few weekend days? So with the VISTA, VISTA's unique in the sense that it doesn't ask for you to fill out a certain number of hours to successfully complete your term. However, a VISTA should be working full-time and should be available when the project needs them to. That's not saying that a VISTA should work 100 hours a week, but what it is saying is that the VISTA should be there when the project requires them, and that they should be serving full-time, which for most organizations is at least 35 hours a week, if not 40 or more. So if your VISTA, if they feel that they should not, you know, I would definitely have a conversation with them about why they feel that they shouldn't have to, and let them know that this is the requirements of the project, that, you know, this is the schedule that's set up for you, you're following the schedule of the project, and then this is what your assignment is requiring of you. Make sure that those clear expectations are set from the beginning and that they know what's expected of them. I know that this person's already been in service, so getting that conversation now is a little bit later, but making sure those things are set out, because VISTAs are told that VISTA is not a 9-to-5 position, that it really is a 24-hour thing, that they need to be available for their site. So definitely try to get to the root of why that is, and if there's struggles, as Jackie and Signa mentioned, you know, reach out to your CNCS program officer, and they can definitely assist you. I'm going to go to the operator. Operator, do we have any questions over the phone?
We have no questions at this time, but as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1 and record your name.
Great. We received another question. What if your VISTA wants to work from home more often than I can permit? So that's a great question. The official telework policy from the VISTA program is that that telework is not a guaranteed thing, that it can be granted under limited circumstances, and that approval has to come from multiple levels, which includes you and the state office. A schedule needs to be worked out, those sorts of things. I would definitely talk to your VISTA and just let them know that telework is not a part of their assignment duties and that they may be able to do it under certain circumstances. But that's not a guaranteed thing, and that to really be connected with the community, they need to be on-site serving. So I would definitely do that. And once again, reach out to your program officer if there's any questions about that policy. Another question here we got is, what if a VISTA constantly complains about the low pay and compares their workload to staff members of the organization? So I've been talking quite a bit, so I'm going to turn it over to Jackie and Signa, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Did you have VISTAs when you, well, Jackie, you're currently a VISTA supervisor, and Signa, when you were a supervisor, that had these complaints, and how did you deal with them? Or if you hadn't, how would you? So Jackie, I'm going to go to you first.
So I have not had anyone really complain about the low pay. Occasionally they compared their workload to other staff members of the organization, and what that really tells me is that I need to pay better attention to what the VISTA member is actually doing and making sure that they're doing what's in their VAD and steering clear of direct service. That's ultimately what happens with that end of things. But I think what works best on our project is that up front, when we interview folks and the first day that they're here in our offices, we go over with them that, you know, your pay is basically the equivalent of $5 an hour. The program is set up that way for a reason. This is it's an anti-poverty program. It's set up purposely for that, and you are essentially a volunteer for the year who's getting a living allowance. So I think putting those expectations at the very, very forefront when you're recruiting folks and interviewing them gets away from the issue of where they complain later on. I guess at the moment, if they're already in your program, I would just remind them what the VISTA program is all about and that the low pay is one of the parts of it.
This is Signa, and I think I might just add that this may be an engagement issue too. I definitely have had VISTAs bringing up these issues, and I work in an organization now where employees bring up these issues about, low pay and comparing themselves to other staff members. And I think the supervisor in this scenario may have a real opportunity to dig deeper and figure out what exactly is it that's really the challenge, because typically, and hopefully this is the case all the time, VISTAs really have a pretty good sense of what they're getting into in terms of their pay. That should be made explicit right up front. And I think Jackie was right on with the comment about going back to their VAD and making sure that they're not doing direct service and making sure the VAD is really clear. I think that can help with just some clarity around those expectations as well. But it may just be too that your VISTA is bored, or they see something as unfair and haven't had an opportunity to sort of debrief that with anyone. So dig into it, ask them what's going on, and I think reiterating expectations will be really helpful, and also see if there's something else you can provide that will help them kind of feel like they are getting what they need from the organization and from their project.
Thank you, Signa, and thank you, Jackie. So I do want to be conscious of the time. I know we're a little bit over. There are still a few questions that people have asked, and we are going to stay here to answer those questions. But I do know that you are busy people. So if you need to drop off, please know that this webinar is being recorded. The resources will be attached. But if you can stay with us and hear the answers to these questions, fantastic. And for those of you who have asked questions, we're going to stay here and answer them for you. So another question that came in, and Jackie, I'm looking at you at this one. I know it's not exactly the same situation, but someone here asked, I'm trying to find her name, Molly here asked, any suggestions for supervisors who are coming in and working with VISTAs who have been in the program longer than you? I have been trained by my VISTA on certain things in our organization, but now have to act as a supervisor. Any tips and tricks? I know you came in, you were just there for 3 days before the VISTAs came in, so you guys started right at the same time. Any thoughts or tips on how to really make that transition from having to learn from the VISTA to then supervising them?
I think it's an understanding of what the expectations are. And the best analogy I can give you is from too many years at summer camp counseling, that if you can set clear expectations from the get-go, clear parameters that, hey, I need you to show me how these things work, but once I get the hang of it, FYI, you're going to be reporting to me. I think having those clear expectations helps. I know definitely that we've had some VISTAs on our project that are older than I am by, 5 to 10 years, and that can be interesting as well. But ultimately, you need to learn from each other. So if it flips the other direction, and if you have other colleagues that have been in your organization for a while that can also help you navigate the road before you get there, like see how things go. Ultimately, you have to figure out how things work, and eventually you'll flip back over and know how things work the best and go from there. But I think ultimately it's a conversation, and the active listening that you can do for each other will help you navigate that path.
Thank you, Jackie. So another question that came in was, and Signa, I think you touched on this a little bit. What if your site manager springs assignments on VISTAs last minute and without notification, such as working on weekends or attending meetings after hours beyond 5 p.m.? How would you handle that, Signa?
I would probably encourage the VISTA. I think this might be a managing up opportunity to talk with their supervisor about what they need in terms of being able to do that. And I think approaching the conversation from like, hey, I'm willing to do this and I'm happy to, and I know that this is an expectation. I really need at least 4 days notice. I mean, there are some VISTAs who have childcare issues or who have, may have elder care scenarios or things. And so I think supervisors really need to be careful and respectful when they're asking VISTAs to do things that are outside of normal work hours. The other side of that would be thinking about, from the supervisor side, getting clarity around what is our actual schedule and helping think about, this may be just sort of an organization from an onboarding perspective, what are the major things that happen throughout the year and what is our normal schedule and when can we expect VISTAs to have to work on the weekend or in the evening. Helping set that out up front can be helpful, and I know that sometimes we're just kind of working with what we got, but as much as possible providing as much notice to folks ahead of time so that they know that they're able to know when they have to work a sort of a different schedule.
Thank you, Signa. And also, one thing, I know you mentioned site manager in that question. If this is someone who's not the supervisor, so if it's like maybe your executive director or someone who's like oversees the whole site, but it's not their supervisor and they spring these things on them, it might also be a good time as well to just make sure that your organization knows the role of the VISTA and what they should and should not be doing. We want to make sure that, as Signa said, that VISTAs are treated as a precious resource and that they're there to build capacity. So we want to make sure that, the staff at the site understand what their role is and what their limitations are as a VISTA. Another question that we got here is, what advice do you have to help a VISTA find her footing or niche in offices where several service projects are already set in place? Jackie, any thoughts on that?
I think it's a matter of getting the other folks that are doing the other projects, whether that's other VISTAs doing other projects in the same office, and letting them chat and have conversations and figure out, what are you working on, what am I working on, how can we collaborate in areas or learn from each other. I find that the best way that I learn and get to know people is by asking a million questions, which for some people might be incredibly annoying, but if you don't ask the question, then you don't ever get the answer. So I think that would be the best starting place. I know that our VISTAs we have 6 currently in our office, and as new ones come in, they come in all over the year, all throughout the year, and they are constantly asking questions and seeing what other people do and trying to figure out, like, okay, well, what part of the project are you working on, or what project are you working on in general, so that they can see if there's a collaboration or something new that they can learn through someone else.
Thank you, Jackie. Another question that we received is from Grace. Grace asked, how does the VAD relate to the job description, and is the VAD developed before interviews? So the VAD, or the VISTA Assignment Description, can be seen as a job description, so those two things can kind of be interchanged. The VAD should be developed before, if not during, the interview process. You know, you should have an idea, and your state office will work with you on this. You should have an idea of what you're recruiting for and the needs that your organization has. You know, I don't want to recruit for someone for brain surgery, but I really need someone who, you know, knows mechanical work. We want, you know, when you're recruiting someone, you want to be able to give them as much information about the work that they're going to be doing ahead of time, so that they can really make a conscious decision and that they're more likely to stick with you, they're less likely to leave service early. So definitely, you know, make sure that that is developed as much as possible before those VISTAs are brought on board, and your state office will work with you on that. If you have questions about how to develop that VISTA assignment description, work with your state office and they will help you. I'm going to go to the operator. Operator, do we have any questions over the phone?
We have no questions at this time.
Thank you so much. So another question that came in is, what about VISTAs covering office at small 3-staff agency during the holidays? Is that allowed or not allowed? So VISTAs should not be replacing the work of staff, and their work needs to be directly related to capacity building efforts. So they need to be following what's in the VAD. You know, we need to be good stewards of the federal dollar, and our VISTAs are a resource. So we want to make sure that they're used for the right things and that their skills are being put to the best use possible. So unfortunately, that kind of assignment would not be allowed for a VISTA. Another question that we got here says, what can you do when the site manager is constantly assigning you with tasks to off HR matters for VISTAs? I'm not sure if I understand your question, Sean. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that question is. You can on the next slide, we're going to show an email address you can email us at. I would love to answer that question. I just need a little bit more information. I think those are all the questions. I think we've addressed everything. If there aren't any other questions that are in here. I do just want to say thank you to both Signa and Jackie for all of their work, for not only being VISTA supervisors, but also joining us here today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for the work that you do with your VISTAs, and we hope to see you next month. Next month, we're going to be doing a great webinar around helping your members thrive. It's really going to bring about the different perspectives of VISTAs, VISTA alumni, supervisors, people who work with VISTAs in many different capacities, and what they have found are ways that they can help their members thrive, maybe what helps them thrive. So please join us. It's December 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So, and remember, visit the VISTA webinars page on the VISTA campus to see any of our recordings. And thank you so much for all of your questions, your participation, and I can't wait to see you on our next one. Thank you so much.